Good afternoon, everyone. Let's wait a little bit and see who comes. Shot me a message in the chat so I know you're here. And Björn, welcome. Today, the broadcast will be very radioactive. We are going to play with radioactivity. And with a self-made Geiger counter. So it's a very crude Geiger counter, but it does its job. We are also going to use a black light, which is behind here. Black light will be our source of ultraviolet radiation. The Geiger counter is made from an Arduino microcontroller. It's a little computer, as you might think, with a little addition of a screen so that we can see the dosage, calculated the dosage. Actually, it's going to calculate the dosage of radioactivity on the screen. And there are also tiny LEDs that will give us some kind of a fun, exciting lights just to gauge it visually. The Arduino microcontroller is powered by 8 AA batteries. And this is the power cable. I just use batteries because it's handy. You can take it outside. I mount the batteries in this foam. And as you see, you can connect the power adapter, but batteries are just more convenient. Then we have these two wires. These two wires, they go to, guess what this is? This is our detector. And what does Geiger counter has for a detector? It's a tube filled with a gas. So there's a tube in here. I've encased it in a plastic foam just like this, and surrounded it with paper because it's very fragile, and if I drop it, it would shatter. We can measure almost 3 types of radiation, except the alpha radiation is stopped by the paper on this detector. So we have to take that under consideration. But we'll be able to see combined beta and gamma, which are the most potent amounts of radiation. The Arduino microcontroller has a little speaker where each hit of a particle from a radiation source that hits the tube creates a current inside. So that's how the computer can count how many radiation particles it has received. And what else? What else can I say? I've created this long time ago. I hope it still works. I used a plastic foil here just to wrap it, and so I don't get rainwater on it. It's kind of like a portable Geiger counter. And the detector looks like this. This side here, inside has a tube. Tube is about this long, and you can hover it over different radiation sources and see how it works. And let's introduce our radiation source for this fun experiment. Radiation source for today are glass beads containing 2% of uranium oxide. So I don't know if you have ever seen processing of uranium. The uranium is processed and the intermediate stage of the processing releases a yellow cake, which is a very, very bright yellow powder. That's why these beads are slightly yellow. They are slightly yellow and radioactive. The yellow color has nothing to do with radioactivity, by the way. Let's unpack our radiation source here. Now, this is a source of radiation. It's enough for the Geiger counter to detect radiation from these. But this is not a strong radiation, so please don't panic. Now, I am going to also explain a really cool effect. What happens to the uranium atoms? Because you probably ask, why do we have the UV light here, right? Trusty UV light. The light is for special light show. What happens is that, let's imagine you have a very heavy uranium atom. Atom is very heavy. It has lots of protons and neutrons in the nucleus. And around it, imagine there are many electrons waving. They are waving around. And these electrons like to stay in their shells where they feel, just perfect. But when we start shining UV light, and as you know, UV light has energy, the UV light will strike the outer shell electrons and kind of excite them, so they wave even more, and they start waving and then move to the outer shells even more. And that's fine, they're excited, everything is normal. But they don't like to be in that high energy state, and they will fall down to their comfy electron shell that what they were before they got hit by the UV light. And when they do that, they emit visible light. Let's demonstrate here with the black light. Let's clean the bench. Okay, let's turn the light. This is a normal, usual black light. So I am going to power it on. The black light emits UVA spectrum. It's the first spectrum of UV band. So whatever glowing you see here, this is not UV. UV is completely invisible. It's under it. This light isn't perfect, and thus it emits some of the visible light. But as the name says, UV means ultraviolet. So it's below this light. There is another light that we cannot see, of course. So maybe I should do it this way. I'm going to I'm going to shut the UV light down, and we're going to put these lovely, lovely uranium oxide beads in a line here. It's another one. They look like this, very yellow. Well, slightly yellow. You cannot tell they have uranium in them unless you measure the radioactivity. So maybe for the clarity, maybe I should put them like this. Just like that. Let me move this detector away for now. Now, as you see, with a non-excited state, they are all nice and chill. No light is emitted from them at all. But let's bring the UV light closer. And let's turn it on. This will excite the electrons to do their magic. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Light is getting on, and look what happened. Now, this is amazing. It's really glowing, guys. It's really glowing. Maybe the white color is not the perfect for the contrast. So this is what happens. The electrons get excited and they say, oh, wait, we are so excited, but hey, we want to really fall down. And they're getting excited and falling down at the same time, emitting this lovely, lovely green light. Now, the emittance of the green light is a visible light. It has nothing to do with radioactivity. It's not like the green glowing uranium from Simpsons that Homer Simpson gets a piece stuck to his cloth and it glows. So this is how it looks. Let me see, outside of the light, it's just yellow. And once it's lit up with the UV light source, we have a glowing party here. Look how intense the color is. It's almost like my hand is glowing, and this green is so strong that almost it overpowers the camera here. So this is for the effect. Any questions, guys? Okay. Out of light, in the UV light. Out of light. And interesting, yeah. Another common name for this type of glass is called a Vaseline glass. Vaseline glass used to be a collectible in, well, a long time ago, 100 years ago, let's say, or even more. People used to collect wonderful cups and mugs, and of course, those old things were much more radioactive because they contained much more of uranium oxide in them. But maybe you can find some of them somewhere at some flea market. Just have to look for a greenish yellow dishes. Well, okay, so as we are speaking, these uranium oxide atoms encased in these glass beads, they're shooting particles out, because as we know, the uranium is radioactive. It's trying to decay. It releases those particles in straight line from the center of the atom, and we should try to measure how much of the radioactivity do they actually release, right? So let me put the beads down. Look at this. Green glowing party. What I'm going to do, let me compose myself, because I want you to see. What I'm going to do is I want to organize a little bit because the field of view is limited. So this is the detector. These are the beads. We're going to apply power to the Geiger counter. But first, I want to put the Geiger counter in a place where we can all look at it. I will support it here. I think. I wish I could balance it perfectly. No. What can I do? What can I do? Like that. Okay. Okay, that's good. Maybe a little bit this way. Let's put the battery in and power it. So hold on a second. I'm going to. Okay, we got power in. Let me move the cable away. So we've got the numbers here. We've got the numbers. How can I? Do you hear the ticks? That's natural radioactivity from the surrounding environment. Let me explain what's being counted here. We have a little LED here that can increase the intensity and decrease. I think the top one is about, I think it turns red. This number here, this is a 2-second average of the current radioactivity measured in microsieverts per hour, or actually microsieverts, not per hour. This one, I believe, is a 10-second average. And the one here, this one will appear after 2 minutes. It's a 2-minute average. The number underneath this is our dosage in microsieverts, how much we have detected or absorbed in microsieverts. And this is the elapsed time for this dosage. So this little computer is going to do the math for us automatically. And averages just give us a general number of the radioactivity. As you see, this one is, the 2-second one is going from 0 to 0.2. And this 10-second one is about 0.12, and that's decreasing. Looks like it's something. Wow, it got quiet. Oh, now not quiet. And you know, the 2-minute one is 0.24 microsieverts. So that's the usual average radiation over 2 minutes. So that's 0.25 microsieverts per hour. Okay, so how can I do this? We're going to parade our radioactive beads that are glowing in green on this detector here, and we'll see what happens. I just wanna have it all arranged. So let's see how much radioactivity can we measure that's coming out of this uranium oxide bead. This is the side with the tube, and I'm putting the bead on top of the detector. And check that out. Check that out. It goes up to 1 microsievert already. It fluctuates. Why does it fluctuate? Well, the radiation is random, so that's why. But how can I do this? I want to get rid of the reflection and I can't. Oh, this is a good one, I think. Oh, this one goes, you see already the 10-second average increased to 0.76 microsieverts. And maybe it's gonna reach 1, maybe not. Yeah. So we cannot get enough of this. Let's add more. Let's add like 2 more. Wow, 2 microsieverts. That's getting really, really excited there. We have 3 LEDs, green LEDs on the gauge. And 2-second average almost shows 10-second average shows 1.5 microsieverts. Oh, this is an error in the programming. I didn't know how to fix it. But this is the 2-minute one, so after 2 minutes, this will actually show the correct one. So we probably should look at this. Okay. So let's put more. Let's make it like really radioactive here. Let's add all the beads to the detector. Let's see what happens. Wow, we got to the red zone here. Like we've got a red LED. How many microsievert is too much? Well, you should probably 400 sieverts will cause something. And up from there, you are looking at different exposure. But this is microsieverts, very small amounts here. Oh, we've got almost 2 here with all these beads. So that's significant amount to trigger buffer overflow to detect with the Geiger counter. Let's just see. I want to give you some comparison what's happening. So let 10 microsieverts is the radiation you receive from the natural surroundings in 1 day, per day. So this is very, very low. We are used to this kind of radiation, and nothing happens. Our body can overcome and possibly fix the random mutations that such radiation could introduce in our DNA, and it's all under control. Now, let's say you are flying in an airplane. You're flying in an airplane. Let's take an oversea flight. That will give you 40 microsieverts. It's probably when you're flying, you know, for a significant amount of time. Now, a dental X-ray, that's 100 microsieverts. Wow. We're still in microsieverts, by the way, very weak. We don't need to be afraid of the dental X-rays because let's say you're gonna go for the really good big X-ray. That's 3000 microsieverts. And about 3000 and up, that's you probably receive that much radiation from the whole throughout the whole year naturally. Now 50,000 microsieverts is probably where it will be like the occupational safety limit. And if you receive 100,000 microsieverts, there might be a small risk of cancer, receiving cancer from that. So that's a kind of significant amount there. But to get really severe radiation poisoning, you would need 2 million microsieverts. So this is the scale. You probably could die from that dose. This is what the detector has absorbed up to now. It's 0.2183 microsieverts, and as you see, it's very, very, very weak. Now, you might probably think, how much radiation was there in Japan after the nuclear disaster? Well, I think in the outer rim, when everything has washed down into the ground, probably we're talking microsieverts. So not very strong, not very strong. But even with weak radiation, we have to also consider that the radioactive particles are decaying. They're decaying into different elements. It's like, you know, changing gold into sulfur. And let's say something decays into something that is readily absorbed by our bodies, like the iodine in a thyroid or some other subcomponents which can build bonds, then it's a problem, because even slight radioactivity will stay in your bones and might cause some unknown havoc. We've got 10 minutes here of the Geiger counter running, and the average here is 2.74 microsieverts per hour. So this is the current radiation coming out of this lovely uranium oxide. I was never able to fix this. I'm very bad at programming. I used an open source code for this one, and I have modified it to calculate these averages because they were the most meaningful to me at that time. Anyway, do you guys have any questions of this interesting radioactive show here? If not, or I'm not sure if you can comment, you should be able. I added Twitch and YouTube and Twitter, Periscope. Kind of sounds like a video game with all this popping. The diodes down there, they've been programmed to light up to the maximum I could generate out of these ones. Mark, thank you. Yeah, just these cables, this is all scrap material, just pretty much garbage I found. Especially my power source. This is complete garbage. I was about to throw it out, and then one day I thought, yeah, let's make a Geiger counter. Let's make a Geiger counter. And so far it's been working very well. The tube that's holding the inert gas is still working. And I think this probably was one of the first kind of DIY Geiger counters. I'm sure now there are probably better kits than this. Look at this popping. Pop, 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 pop. 2.56 microsieverts per hour here. I wonder how radioactive is Chernobyl these days. I'm sure there are still lots of hotspots. I know people go there to do just tourism. Popcorn, yeah. And unfortunately, I lived in Poland during that time when the power plant has exploded, and I have probably absorbed an unknown and significant amount of the radioactivity. And who knows, I still don't have a cancer, which is good. But we were never told that there was a accident underway happening. The government at the border has detected so high amounts of radiation those times that they thought that their Geiger counters were broken. So they didn't make any fuss about that. Now, yeah, superpowers, kryptonite. And also, the wind and rain carried a lot of this radioactivity all around Europe, and Poland is pretty close to Ukraine, where it was former Soviet Union at that time. Yes, my parents in Romania at that time. Yeah. I remember we couldn't really, we were discouraged really from doing our gardens and growing vegetables. We couldn't go outside. I remember a couple days after, or even more, my parents took me to the clinic where we had to ingest liquid iodine, just so that we can protect our thyroids from the radioactive iodine. But yeah, that was a pretty bad disaster. This is one of those disasters where the whole reactor, it completely opened and spewed tons of stuff and kept on spewing, the radioactivity as everything inside was molten. And if you don't have that covered, that will fly into the air, and it probably made itself all around the world to some degree. And another, wow, almost 3 microsieverts an hour for average here for 16 minutes. Wow. Another geek thing about radioactivity here is guess who discovered radioactivity? Well, it was a Polish scientist, Marie Curie Skłodowska. It was very impressive that she married French scientist Pierre Curie, and she emigrated from Poland. Now, she is one of those extraordinary scientists that received 2 Nobel Prizes. She's the first woman to receive a Nobel Prize, and the first woman to receive 2 Nobel Prizes. The first Nobel Prize was for discovering the radioactivity itself. Like this is where the name started, when the name radioactivity started. And the second Nobel Prize that was for the physics, so that's radioactivity. And for the second Nobel Prize, she got it in not physics, but in chemistry. And she discovered two elements. One of them is, guess what? It's radioactive. I'm gonna call it radium. So radium is one, and she also loved Poland a lot. So you probably can guess what the second element was called. Any ideas? It was called after Poland, polonium. Unfortunately, she has worked so much with this radioactive or extracting the radioactive materials that she has succumbed to the most likely aplastic anemia and passed away at age of 60 something, maybe 67. Polonium, yes, Mark. And this is not the end. This is not the end. Her daughter, she was also a scientist. I think she got also a Nobel Prize for discovering of artificial radioactivity. So it's almost unbelievable. Unbelievable. I think there is even a movie about Marie Curie Skłodowska called Radioactivity. Well, it's one of those average movies, but if you wanna watch it, it's probably a fun thing historically too. You know, and can you imagine at those times? I don't think women were allowed to study at the university. So she didn't have a... Oh, bonjour, Patricia. Bonjour. We're talking about Madame Curie Skłodowska, the Polish and French by marriage scientist who received 2 Nobel Prizes. And look what we have now. We have so much that the radioactivity can give us. You know, we use it in medicine, in nuclear power plants. We know how to protect ourselves now from it, or how to handle it properly. Have you heard of David Hahn, the boy who built a nuclear reactor in his home in night? I heard of that. Yes, I did. Apparently, there in the United States, in the West, in Canada as well, not sure if he was actually collecting the radioactive americium from the fire detectors, and eventually he collected enough and created that radioactive nuclear reactor. It was very tiny. But I might be wrong. Maybe it's a different story. So look at this thing going. Almost 3 microsieverts an hour. Wow. Check this out. I'm going to turn off the light. And you see, they stop glowing just when you block the light. The electron excitement settles, and now boom, excited, and it settles, and we have a light emitted from it. You're exactly right. And an element from the glowing paint on the... Oh, that one. Yeah, you know, I remember that used to be a thing. The glowing clocks and watches, figurines. When I was a child, I remember those things. How much radioactivity did they emit? It's hard to tell, but there is a story of ladies who used to paint these watches and clocks with paint, and they've been using brushes, which they have been licking, to make the brush kind of nice and pointy. And I heard that they tried to exhume them, and they were so radioactive that they were glowing still. Everything was radioactive where they lived. It was very, 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 very used in high amounts. Isn't radium used for that? I think so. I think when Madame Curie Skłodowska, when she was extracting her unknown element from the ore, she collected small amounts in vials, and these vials, they were glowing at night. So the whole lab was probably full of them, and it was a novelty. So that's all I have to say now. Wow, 2.69 microsieverts. We're getting to 1 microsievert in those 20 minutes. 24 minutes here. But still. Do you want to see the different guys when we remove the radioactive uranium here? I'm going to put the little detection to the state of rest. So let's move them a little bit off the detector tube. Let's see what happens. I love that glowing color. The tube is in the middle of this detector, and I'm going to put them. There might be real residual activity from these guys, but let's see this going down. It got quiet. Now it's 1.3, 1.14, 0.85, 0.71, 0.63, 0.61, 0.7. That's around 0.7 microsieverts per hour. 0.5, 0.56. It's lovely to see it calming. Such a big effect. It's really cool to think that every radioactive particle shooting out of the nucleus of the uranium strikes the tube, and that is translated into the little audible pop. And then with all the power of computers, we can average them very quickly. All right, everyone. All is calm. One last look at the glowing before I shut this down. So let me turn off the UV light source. Boom. But hey, they are still radioactive. They're still radioactive if you put them back. You hear that? They're still radioactive. So it's not the Simpsons here. Not the Simpsons when you think the green glow is the radioactivity. It's just light emitted from excitement of the electrons. Okay, everyone, I'm going to shut down for now. We had a wonderful radioactive time here, and we've almost emitted here or detected 1 microsievert. Wow, what a tiny amount of radiation. Take care, Build. Take care. Take care, everyone. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.